Hey everybody, how you doing today? We're going to be diving into a world healing session. This was booked by a client. I've taken a look at Mexican cartel, I've taken a look at the deep state, and today we're going to be looking at satanic rituals, doing healing for satanic rituals. So I'm going to read the goals that you wrote here, and thank you so very much for this incredible donation. You're supporting me, you're supporting the world, and thank you for sharing here on YouTube so other people can participate in this beautiful inspiration of yours. So here's what you wrote. You say, "Dear Abbey, I ask that you take a look at the dark energies fueling satanic rituals involving the suffering and sacrifice of children. Please shine your light upon these forces that feed on fear and innocence, so that they may be transmuted by divine love. May every being lost to this darkness be shown a pathway back to God. May the souls of the children who have perished find peace, healing, and safe return to heaven. And may those still living in fear be found, freed, and surrounded by the loving support and recovery they so deeply deserve." Okay. All right. Right now, I'm just acclimating here to what you wrote and what your vision is. It's pretty obvious what we're working on here, but I need to get tuned in. Forces that feed on fear and innocence. Suffering and sacrifice of children, dark energies fueling satanic rituals. So that those children that have endured this terrifying experience and have died, and we're setting their souls free, and the children who are still enduring in this scary experience, who are still alive, that they could be found and freed, surrounded by the loving support and recovery they so deeply deserve. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna relax here. I'm gonna put my special eyes on. There we go. Much better. All right. The first thing that I experience is a great deal of solid, almost hard as a rock. It's like I swallowed a stone and it fell into my heart, and my heart became a solid stone. There's so much pressure upon my heart, and it doesn't break, doesn't shatter. It just gets more solid, more like a stone. Layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of solid stone. It just keeps building up more layers of stone. Is it my heart? Is it the heart of this topic? This is my first experience. It doesn't feel good, to be honest. It feels awful. It feels like when you're a kid and you're having to face a predicament that you just don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. Maybe you've crossed the line and you've upset your parents. That was never your intention. But your heart could feel like a stone. I feel my heart is a stone. This is quite surreal. So, okay, the next thing is there are actual stones on the ground, and there's a ring of stones. They're basically squared shapes, but they're not perfectly squared. So I stand, I'm witnessing this one standing. What does this one look like? It looks youthful, it looks young. It's not really definable right now. And so there's stones that, here's a ring, a small ring, but here's a little bit bigger ring, here's a little bit bigger ring. And so the stones create a circular shape on the ground, rows and rows of stones in a circular shape. There seems to be some kind of entryway of a dark place. This is an underground space, and this childlike representation, this could be a 12-year-old, 13. It's not like 5-year-old. This one is walking in through this circular chamber and then walking into a much bigger open space. It kind of reminds me of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, where you have this almost like stone pathway and you have these stone structures of snakes on the right and left sides with water on either side as well. And then you walk forward until you get to this other stone section. There's torches that are quite large. They're huge torches lit with big fire, this big fire coming from big torches. Not your classic ones you'd want to hold in your hand. They seem to be attached to the walls that are made out of stone as well. It's not water on either side. It's blood on either side. It's fats of blood. It's just blood on either side of this pathway. So naturally, I need to pause for a minute. I need to look around here. It's not very liquidy blood. It's syrupy. I can't get further down the pathway yet. I can't go from this beginning chamber across this bridge yet to where this next section is. I can't get to that next section yet. This here is a young boy, like 12 years old, that his entire body seems to have a type of light, a skin around it that glows. And so I see him in like a mucous membrane that's very close to his skin. It just glows with white light. Almost trance-like. Every step is a bit trance-like. I can't speak to this boy. I can't get his attention. Say, hey there. What's going on here? How you doing? Close your eyes, turn around, walk away. Do something different. Don't have to follow this path. You don't have to. You could not do it. All right. The reason I'm saying this is because it's odd how we get locked into behaving in a situation that is entirely out of alignment. Why are we becoming a participant in something so weird? So misbehaving is appropriate. Misbehaving, why would you behave? Misbehave. There's so much stress, I'll tell you what. There's so much stress. I don't feel so much the solid stone of a heart. I feel like my heart's turning into Swiss cheese, but it's kind of cartoonesque, like here's a piece of cheese and I squish it, and is it Swiss cheese or is it squish cheese? It turns to liquid, and it's sort of stinky cheese liquid that goes into my stomach. As my eyes watch this boy continue to walk across this stone pathway. I'm supposed to merge with this boy now, so I am now this boy, and I'm walking across this stone pathway. What's going through his mind is, it's a very incomprehensible reality. It's a very incomprehensible reality is what's going through the mind. It's not really about the past, it's about what's going to happen next, but what's going to happen after that. So if what happens next is I die, then what happens after that? It's not so much about the past, it's about what happens next. And every step that takes me closer to what happens next, this is a reflection of the experience of being one who has to face this satanic ritual. That's what the theme is, that's what the intention is, that's where I'm guided. It's strange because I can't seem to get to the part where bad things happen. I will say that every step that takes me closer feels like an eternity before I'm ever on the other side of this stone bridge. surrounded on either side by sort of sticky, syrupy, dark red, blood-like material. There's an incredibly vibrant white light at the end. When I look into the white light, I see a picture of a man in surgery. And I actually see that flesh has been removed from the tops of his legs. So there's exposed bone. You can see exposed bone all the way from the top, all the way down to the foot. So you see skin along the sides, but then you see this exposed bone, just like, we'll just dig this flesh out and then we'll just look at the bones. But it'll have this flesh on the sides, but we can see the bones inside. And this man is actually being filled up with blood, apparently. And then he's being stitched back together again. Everything phases out. It's not for me to do anything yet. It's not for me to really understand any of this yet. The thing is about anything satanic energetically, it's always a unique viewpoint, okay? So we all get a feel for what this is, this horror of this, what this is, right? We all get a feel for it. I can't make it conveniently what we imagine that it would be, right? I can only provide what is provided to me. And so this is what's provided. And I can't say much more than what's presented. So that's what's being presented. And this bright white light, which is still at the end of the bridge, which we're not quite there yet because the steps seem to take forever. As I'm this boy who's also trying to understand what comes next and then what comes next after that. And it's just incomprehensible. This white light now fades out. It's this man who had exposed bones, filled up with blood, stitched back up. It's all faded out. I don't know what any of that means. But now I see this strange chair is what's at the end of this path. And it's kind of like a dental chair. And the boy is sitting down and there's a man who's speaking kindly. He basically tells the boy this isn't going to hurt. And he injects something into his veins. All I can do is wait. But there is something paralleling this boy and what's happening with this boy and what happened with this man and the blood that filled this man and this boy. Because this man was sitting in the exact same chair with this picture I described, okay? Which my perspective was really focused on how disturbing with these legs. And then the blood that filled this body, and I wondered where was the blood before this blood? But it was all stitched back up and then this man was removed. Now this child is taking the place of this man. So I can't say what happens next. I don't know. I'm supposed to merge with the child and I'm sleeping. I actually don't feel afraid at all. I'm sleeping peacefully. And I'm sleeping so peacefully, I notice that my soul's in another space. And it's a space of waiting. In this space of waiting, I'm allowed to watch what's happening to my body, or I don't have to. It's entirely up to me. I'm looking at the person that's communicating with me. It's an old woman, a very, very old woman. And she's short. She's a little on the heavy set side. And, I mean, she's aged all right. And you can see her face is definitely aged. And she's short and she's budgy. And she's wearing a red garment. A red garment on her head all the way down, and then a red dress. She seems quite peaceful. And I say, why, hello there. She doesn't seem to mind that I'm here either. And I say, I'm kind of freaked out. I don't know if I want to see. And the longer I look at her, the more I notice that she's not what she appears to be. Oh, gross. There's a lot I'm actually discovering right now. I'm not sure how to put words to it yet, but I'll put words to it. When I look through here, her appearance that I described, I actually see, I want to say it's kind of dragon-like. It's surreal, the element of silver. It's like it's made out of squishy silver material. And it does have a mouth, so when it opens it up. It's almost like a slime that kind of connects the mouth from the top to the bottom, but it separates. And the mouth kind of opens and closes, but it's a bit distorted. It doesn't necessarily have scales, but it doesn't not have scales, but it's just a silver. And the silver reflects light in ways that it's darker silver or almost white. You wouldn't tell it was silver. And it definitely has a face like a dragon. It has a body like a dragon. We're talking medieval dragon, like an elongated neck. When I look at her, I see the mouth open and close like this. And the neck, it just always seems to be moving around. His whole body seems to be moving around. And his face, like this. Just moving around like that. I don't know why, but I put this woman in my sacral chakra. And I return to the boy in the chair. And I start to hear the dragon woman screaming. And I tell the boy to return to himself. Don't separate from himself, return to himself. And I reach an elongated arm that stretches through dimension to bring his soul back. I tell him I can't say this is going to be great, but you're not going to be alone. He doesn't want to hold my hand and he doesn't want to come back. And my guides tell me I have to honor and respect that. And so I do. You could say, well, why didn't the woman get a choice if she wanted to go in my sacral or not? Because divine time says she's going in my sacral chakra. I don't understand it either. I just know she's got to go there, and that's where I need to go, back to the boy in this space. I just know that. I also know I need to give the boy a choice if he wants to return or not. He's choosing not to. And my guides are talking about it's important. Sometimes we have to face the ugly things. If we don't, well, we'll face it one day, and maybe not today, but it'll just keep circulating around and around again. You ready to face it now? You ready to face it now? And everything that your soul goes through and all the lives that are going to happen after this moment in time are going to be rebuilding you back to this moment in time. Where are you ready to face it now? Are you ready to face it now? However long you want to take, you just go around and around in a circle. Are you ready to face it now? It's very encouraged that you always say yes, even if you're not ready to face it now. Because the only way to get to the new experiences is to just face it, because there is no ever being ready to face something like this. You just face it. That's what you do. That's not easy. Who wants to face whatever this weird thing is? Nobody. Well, someone's got to face it. Someone's got to go through this. And for me to be able to do healing for satanic rituals, well, then there's someone got to face it. Some soul's got to participate in being the satanic ritual creator, and someone's got to be the soul that has to walk into that ritual and face it. So maybe it's convenient that it's not you today, you know? Maybe we need to start thinking like this. I'm not allowed to be what I'd really like to see this boy be. But I am at least a container of this female energy, this dragon. The entire being is feeling real kooky. It feels like hot and cold at the same time, especially in your joints. It feels like shaking in fear, but not making a sound. It feels like an odd sweat that you don't really know how you're sweating, and you couldn't really say if you were hot or cold because you feel both, and it feels like your stomach is going to vomit, but no puke ever comes out. So I tell the body of the boy, I say it's okay to just be present. And I tell this woman it's okay to just be present. And I notice that what happens, my sacral chakra basically pops and red blood comes out of it. And then it starts to fill this boy, which seems to be bloodless at this time. And this red vapor, this red spirit, this red energy fills this bloodless boy. And I create the containers so this red spirit can only be contained by this boy's container. And she's trying to create a dimensional doorway out, but all she does is create a doorway back to the same, back to the same, back to the same, back to the same. And I say, your loop's over. This is where it ends. Be glad that it ends here. What's strange is this man that's doing the procedure seems to notice something energetically isn't right. And it's interesting because as this boy seems to be bloodless and therefore must be dead, can only conclude it must be dead, physically dead. I can't give you a straight answer. Is he physically dead? I can't tell. Because there's still energy contained in this physical body, this bloodless body. Is my energy and this woman, dragon woman's energy? And somehow this man is becoming kind of stuck. It's just like he's becoming like a wax museum figure. He just looks lifelike, but he's not moving. He's just stuck. And I take in this dragon woman from my head to my toe. I just take her in entirely. I also take in this boy's physical body. I take in this weird chair. I take in this stuck man. I take in this chamber entirely. I take in this sticky, red, syrupy stuff. I take in everything that I've witnessed thus far. I just take it all and I pull it into my heart. I just take it all into me. In another version of reality, there's nobody here, and this place has been empty for an extremely long time. And these rituals and whatever they speak to those that do these rituals and then are forced to participate in these rituals because someone's required, that in this version of whatever this ritual is, has been empty for a very long time. And I'm supposed to shatter the scene, and I'm supposed to resurrect to another version of this. Some of these are extremely ancient processes, belief systems, extremely ancient belief systems, and following through and honoring the tradition. It's actually incredible, it hasn't been broken. The tradition this old hasn't been broken. Wherever I resurrect to, it's all smushed together, it's all jammed together. And I see there's a lot of crippling, there's a lot of what can only be described as it's all fragile. It's all flaky, it's all kind of lost its mind, as though at one time there was something far more solid, far more dedicated to the process and in tune with the belief system, the original belief system. It seems to the participants are losing their mind. They're becoming fragile mentally. They're becoming fragile because the loop is coming to an end. Then that what had once made it strong is now making it fragile, which is quite the message for those who want to see this come to an end. This might just be the timeline where we witness it, and it will undo itself. This will all undo itself. I'm supposed to talk about what happened between the dragon woman and me and the spirit of the boy. I'm supposed to give you guys some viewpoint on that. Before first, I really want to emphasize that the space that I've resurrected into, anyone who participates in these old rituals is going to become more and more fragile of the mind. And it will break the cycle in and of itself. There's nothing upholding this. There's no energy that's feeding this or feeding anything else, because all of it's just getting fragile. It's creating an illness that basically is the ultimate disease for this history. The history has come from then a beginning into an end, as all things do. You need to remember that all things do have an end. All things do have an end. This has an end. Supposed to go find that boy's spirit now. What I resurrected into is just smushy, smashy, blah, 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 bunch of junk, different colors smushed together, and just flaky, fragile, crumbly, crackly chips, chunks, just like breaking. It just different versions of fragile, flaky, breaking eggshells, potato chips, crunchy old fall leaves. It's just fragile. And there's different colors, and particularly blacks and reds and blubbery material. And it's just like a mind that is flaking away. It's a mental illness. It's developing into an illness. It's not feeding a solid ground. It's not feeding any kind of exchange that creates something of power or something of materializing wealth or whatever that then comes from these actions isn't available anymore, because this timeline has reached the end. So all that is available is the opposite. It's going in reverse. If you continue to participate, you will go in reverse, and generations from you, until you all fall away like the fall leaves that crunch into the tiny little pieces and be forgotten about. Okay, so that's that. It's probably the most unusual version of a satanic ritual I've ever come across, but that's what is being presented here. Now let me go find this boy's spirit. One thing I need to tell you that's a peculiar detail. This is a very, very, very peculiar detail, and I've never come across this detail before. That this boy was chosen for this ritual, to endure then this ritual, then to incarnate into this family that will uphold the ritual. And so you endure the ritual, then become the one that shares the ritual. And so it's constantly fed with new souls that circulate into the role of those ones who create satanic rituals. So let's say you start in a lifetime, you darn well know where you're going in this life. You've chosen it. You're facing the ultimate fear because you have no idea as a human being what any of this is about. You enter into this ritual however it chooses to go for you, okay? In this case, in this ritual, this sacrifice was to become a future family member, to continue the ritual. So you're the sacrifice that then becomes the one who will one day sacrifice others. So that's what this is saying. It's the first time I've ever heard that. I'm not convinced all satanic rituals do it the same or have the same pathway, but this is the first I've ever seen this type with this pathway. So that's interesting. Okay. That's why when I go to this boy, I am perplexed here, because what really happened is this boy had a pathway and I put a wedge. And really what happened is mass confusion in his timeline. But that was also divine too. That's why I encouraged him to come participate in this so he could be set free from this next step, which was for him to return now as the one who sacrifices. Really, he's going to return to become mentally insane because the timeline's falling apart. But there seems to be a wedge between where he's to go next, as well as returning to reconcile what he didn't come full circle on because I showed up. I created change. He's angry because he wanted to be a dragon. He was to be born into this family of dragons. And this is how you follow the path to be born into a family of dragons. He was already discovered by an ancestor and welcomed into this family in love, actually. Prepared and loved and walked through the process and what comes next. I tell my guides it's kind of strange that they wouldn't have perceived there would be an end to this. Was that on purpose? They just weren't gifted in awareness, even in the spirit realm. They're two-dimensionally incapable of seeing that bigger picture, that this would ever come to an end. My guides aren't going to answer that question. They want me to decide how I'm going to bring harmony to the soul. And I can feel that red dragon in my sacral chakra, like in a prison inside myself. And she's pounding on the walls in there, like the memory of her is in there. But what I do is I need to slow down here. I really need to be sure about this. I choose to become a representation of Jesus. Because I, the human, can't really know everything. But one thing I can know is that Jesus would know, where unconditional love will guide the soul. And so I'm placing basically the meaning of this boy into my left hand and the meaning of this dragon woman into my right. And I'm sitting down in front of this boy's spirit who's standing, and I show him my palms like this, and I show him that I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I just don't, nothing's coming to me that makes me feel confident enough to do something. So I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to emulate what Jesus means to me, just like this. And what's interesting is the boy just starts laughing like a hyena. And I just keep doing the same. I don't flinch. I don't change. He just keeps laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And he starts to look like a weird kind of smoky black dragon. It's much smaller than the gnashing kind of silvery looking dragon of the grandmother figure. And I start to see, I just keep emulating this unconditional love, which is the pathway to heaven, which is the pathway to God, that's what I'm doing. With, there he is on my left, there she is on my right. That's what I'm doing. And I see he becomes made out of like charcoal. He's just kind of flaking away into a black dust, and he's disappearing. It just disappears into a pile of black dust that blows away, and the sound of his insane laughter just disappears. And then he wakes up quite small in this left hand. And I notice that all the energy pulls out of my sacral and it becomes back into this old woman in my right hand. And I see these two, they lose their appearances and they just become energies. One's black and one's red, and they start to circulate around each other. And then I put an orb of light around them, and they seem to be soulmates somehow. It doesn't matter what, well, one's a grandmother, one's a boy, and just take away age and appearance. They're just souls, okay? And so they're attracted magnetically so. And they go into this orb of light. And then I hand this orb of light to God. And then everything that is my representation also turns to dust. And then I leave this space. I leave all the spaces on purpose. I just apparently leave the spaces. I don't have to leave the spaces because I know I left them. I just guided to leave the spaces now. I just feel like leaving the spaces. And I go sit in a star for a long time. And I cry, actually. I weep for a long time in the star. I just cry. I just cry and I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry for a long time. And as I cry, I'm purifying my soul and I'm purifying myself, and the light of the star is healing me. And I see that I too am in the palm of God's hand. And God is showing me many pathways of exploring what love is, in many ways that we can agree and disagree as human beings, but there's higher viewpoints. They're much harder to, as a human being, to digest, because the divine truth is we choose our lives on purpose. We choose our lives and we choose our pathways on purpose. They take us to new learning. And maybe we disagree with those classrooms. One thing's for sure, there is a message about new learning and coming full circle, and what are classrooms that are flaking away, because everything affects everything. And so as we're growing energetically, we're evolving, becoming new, and choosing new pathways. It just seems to be happening organically, not because we're fed up and we're sick of all this dark stuff, but it's just organically an ascension. It's an organic ascension for everybody. So I'm a little bit dumbfounded, a little bit baffled about that. I find it to be the first time I've ever witnessed anything like this, so it's very new. I find the information interesting, and one of the details that I didn't come across was the sound of fear. You could say there definitely was fear. I mean, the shaky, the hot and cold, the how am I sweating, the uncertainty. Like, I don't want to go back in my body. I want to stay in this peaceful space. This forever walk, what happens next, but what happens after that makes a lot of sense now. Makes a lot of sense. It's an ancient ritual. Why do they do it? Been doing it somehow unbroken for a very long time. But energy affects energy, and everything has to evolve. It always will find closure, just like a human life has a beginning and it has an end. But your life experiences, you can go through a human life and you can have beginnings and ends with a lot of things too, like relationships can have a beginning and an end. And you start some new relationship, which might have a beginning and an end, however the story goes, you know? You might have had your first car, which then has a beginning and an end. Well, not driving that one anymore. I'm driving this one. And I've driven 5 other cars since then. Beginnings and ends, you know? Some beginnings and ends are a lot longer than others. And when you look at it through the God's eye view, you can see almost like a crazy, crazy, crazy space full of these tunnels, these wormholes, like bajillions of them. Like, how would you even know where to begin to navigate it? You really have to know yourself. So if some part of your soul seeks to understand this dragon family and to incarnate into it, but in order to do so, you have to be taken, be put into this circumstance, go through this ritual. It's just the way that this one works. Some of them are pretty disgusting. Some of them are pretty stinky. Some of them are the worst of the worst of the worst kind of places. This was far more neutral, far less loud. I expected to be extremely loud. I expected to be extremely filthy. I expected to be stepping on almost like layers and layers and layers of souls just stuck, and all the despair, because your intentions, your goals were really talking about the fear and these poor children that have to face this incomprehensible nightmare. And is it their choice? Well, this is saying it is their choice. That's the hard part that I don't really like saying to human beings, because nobody wants to think of their child wound up in that, or that it was their child's choice before they were born, that they would choose such a terrifying life, and to be the parent to not know how to cope with that truth. It's so many classrooms, incomprehensible classrooms of learning. And I feel a bit too neutral for the conversation because the human part of me wants to feel more unhappy about it. The human part of me wants to be unhappy about it, but I'm neither happy nor sad. I'm more neutral about it. Like matter of fact, like 1 + 1 = 2. It's just matter of fact. So am I to illuminate? Am I to heal? Am I to set these pathways free? Or is it for us to be aware that there's an organic process and to put our faith in God's hands here, or put our faith in an organic process? It's even that just seems so neutral and lacking true emotional care. It basically tells me too that there's a destiny that no amount of, like, if your destiny is to put a stop to this, you'll put a stop to what you're allowed to put a stop to, because you'll never be able to cross the line. If there is, it's intended to be God's will kind of thing, the way the dominoes fall kind of thing, it will be what it will be, okay? So that's all I can share for this one. Wow. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. I feel a bit still kind of, maybe a bit of shock or something. If I can do anything to help you, you who's listening that may like an outside the box viewpoint with some love and support for your well-being as you go through whatever it is you're going through, you can book a session with me at my website at abbeynormalswisdomquest.com. Have a great day, everybody.